So I get asked a lot about what specialty tools do you need, what kind of tools do you have, what do you use most often, what should I get for setting up a home workshop or whatever, that type of thing. And well, I do have a whole garage full of specialty tools and different things laying around that I do use. I'm going to be going over just what's in these boxes because that's the stuff that I use most often, and that's the stuff that the basic stuff you should have at a very minimum if you're going to be doing a lot of at-home repairs, whether it be automotive, whether it be small engine, whatever it may be. This is the stuff that I would recommend at a bare minimum. So in these boxes, we'll just make it super easy. We'll start from top to bottom. And on very top here, I have a spray bottle of soapy water that has a zillion different uses. Everything from obviously your basic cleaning to checking for air leaks, that type of thing. I have a, this you don't really need, but I actually like to use it. It's a vise that actually operates on a vacuum. Here we go. Super secure. Gives me an extra hand when I need to hold something or whatever. If I actually need to use any more than that, I have a vise over there. But on top of this, I keep it clear, so I have extra counter space to work with when I'm working on something. I can lay out parts here or do whatever. But very top drawer on the left, I keep very long pliers. These are hose pliers actually. You can see they're round on the outside, so they wrap around the hose and grab it instead of pinch it or cut it. And those help with, for instance, on this bike, you have the hoses that go into the petcock, and you can reach around and actually pull those hoses off without having to risk damaging anything. These are also essential, in my opinion. These long needle nose pliers with, this is a 90 degree, and that's a 45 degree. I use these quite often to reach around places that would be normally very hard to actually get to. They're very, very nice for hose clamps in odd places and that type of things. The rest of this drawer contains a couple different types of scissors and these forceps here, which are actually locking. So that's very, very nice for some things. It's nice to grab little things way down in little areas and not have to worry about dropping them. Next drawer here, I keep some of the bigger plier type tools. I have some snips here. These are some wire cutters and strippers all in one. They're automatically adjusting for whatever width of wire you're using. So those are really nice. I have some channel locks here, and I have two pairs of slip joint pliers, and I have some tin snips here. Now these tin snips are designed for tin, but they will cut through quite a bit. And I use them for probably things that they aren't designed to. So this drawer is strictly 1/4-inch drive sockets and extensions and that type of thing. This is probably more than I would recommend you would really need, but you know, I go through a lot of sockets. I lose them, I break them, I do funky things with them. So here's metrics, here's standards. It's good to keep them organized. And then of course you got your adapters and everything else in there. I've also got some specialty bits here. I got some stars, Phillips, flatheads, some more stars, which are Torx bits. I got some squares, Allens, and some other stuff there. So that's 1/4-inch drive stuff. This stuff, if you're doing automotive, this stuff is more for interior trim pieces and stuff like that. If you're doing small engine, there are some bolts on the carburetors and bolts on covers and stuff that require sockets this small. This drawer here, I've got a few of them out laying on the floor right there. But I have some drivers, just nut drivers of various sizes. Some pretty small ones coming up, and I have some screwdrivers laying on the floor there too, but I got some flatheads over here too. First drawer here is basically an assortment of standard size wrenches. I've got some ratcheting ones here, and the rest are basically just generic, your typical wrenches. Pretty much everything from 1 inch all the way down to 1/4 inch, and whatever's in between. And of course I've got duplicates because there's some applications where you will need one for the nut and one for the bolt of the same size on each end. So don't just have just one, have multiples of the same size. It really helps. Next drawer is basically the same thing except metrics. I got ratcheting and open-end wrenches and stuff up there. I'm not too picky about brands as long as they're not cheapy crap that's going to bend. If you notice, I got a bunch of Ace brands. I got a Durabuilt, there's a Craftsman, Stanley, there's a Snap-on, there's Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh, I like the ratcheting end, but I find that it doesn't hold fasteners as well as it should. I think it's a little bit bigger than its same size other end, and these are not recommended in my opinion for use with high torque applications. Just a little side note. Here we have sockets, 3/8 and a 1/2 inch drive sockets. We've got some impact sockets. The taller ones are deep well sockets, and I've got a nice assortment of 6-pointed. I've got 12-pointed. I've got little tiny shorty sockets for getting in tight places. There's extenders. These two are actually breaker bars. This is a 3/8 breaker bar, 1/2 inch breaker bar. I've got a selection of universal joints for different sizes. Those are very essential. I use universal joints a lot to get in places that I normally couldn't get to. Here are adapters for going from one size to the next. These are for putting in your drill or whatever, so you can put a socket on there for power tools. Here's a torque wrench, and obviously you got your different ratchets. This thing's kind of nice. You can put a 3/8 drive socket on there and turn it by hand that way if you don't have a lot of space to work with. But that's sockets. Sockets are definitely essential. Another thing to note is anywhere between most things I work with, besides when I need 1/4 inch stuff, most of it is between 8mm and 21mm and the standard size equivalents. So the only thing you'll really need like a 32mm socket for would be like axle nuts and stuff on some vehicles if you're gonna be doing that type of thing. 15/16. This is a 1 1/4. There's a 30. But 15/16 is a very common size for small engines for the flywheel on 10, 12 horse engines, that type of thing. So that's definitely get a good set of sockets for that. If you're using anything with impact or anything with high torque applications, make sure it's 6-pointed, not 12-pointed, so you get a much better grip on it so you don't strip it out. Next drawer down is, I got a caliper in there, very similar to that one there, but it's digital. In here is, got a flare tool at the bottom, some pipe cutters, and these are actually line wrenches. If you'll notice, they contact all 6 sides of the nut, give it a much better chance of coming off without stripping, whereas regular wrenches only get a couple sides of it. And for things like grease fittings or brake line components, that type of stuff has been sitting on there, gets all rusty, doesn't like to come off very easily, so line wrenches are essential for anything brake related or grease related. In here is a whole assortment of Allen wrenches. Allen wrenches, in my opinion, are pretty essential to the job. Serve quite a few purposes. And in here is basically, if I can open it here for you. One-handed works great, right? Yeah. There we go. Basically a lot more bits for pretty much everything you would need. I don't really run into anything that I don't have a bit for. that this case provides. The drill bits, in my opinion, in this set were pretty cheap, so I have broken a few of them, but overall I do like this set. It's a nice Craftsman set. There is a 3/8 drive inch-pounds torque wrench, and in here is a 1/2-inch drive foot-pounds torque wrench. So inch-pounds and foot-pounds are essential, especially if you're doing any internal engine work. You don't want to over-tighten things, and you obviously don't want to leave things too loose. In here I have just very basic diagnostic tools. I have a couple jumper wires. I have some spark plug testers, some test lights, a couple different DVOMs, digital volt ohms meters. This one has continuity on it, so I can check for completed circuits or broken wires or that type of thing. I like that. And this thing is actually a temperature gauge, but I don't really use that because I have this thing, which is an infrared thermometer, which I can use to check temperature. Here is the very, if you're going to do some automotive work, you'll want to get yourself a nice code reader. This is obviously the basic of the basic code reader, and that gives me a good place to start with. Here's a borescope. Basically there's a camera on the end with a light, and you can see inside cylinders or around corners or tight places that normally you couldn't be able to see. And of course we have a timing light. That is more for automotive related stuff, but there's that. In here we have our gases. We have MAP and oxygen gas for that type of torch, and we have propane for that type of torch. I also keep welding goggles in here because I have a welder sitting down there. And at the very bottom there's a couple air tools. There's a nice electric impact, there's a corded drill, and this Matrix series Black & Decker drill, which I have the impact head on, but I also have the sander, saw, and a bunch of attachments for that, and the chargers and stuff for that. So that's basically what I keep in that box. That's what I use most often. There are, for what I do, there's a few jobs that I need more than that, but you know, that's for 95% of the stuff that'll work just fine. Now this box is a two-piece deal. On the top here I actually keep glues, sealants, that type of stuff, TFE paste for air fittings and whatever else. Keep a flashlight. Flashlights are essential. And then I also keep a valve spring compressor and a whole selection of different types of hoses. Obviously I do replace fuel lines and vacuum lines and stuff quite often, but I also use these to test things and diagnose things. Skip down here, we have a Mighty Vac here, which is basically creates vacuum pressure, so I can open up vacuum activated systems or test things. You know, basically if I don't have the right size hose, I can't create the right vacuum pressure on there and deal with that. The vacuum the vacuum valve there also has a canister here, so I can bleed the brakes all by myself. Down here we have fuel pressure gauges and a whole selection of compression testers. All these different adapters and stuff for fitting in different size spark plug threadings. So this is basically pressure related deals, whether it be fuel pressure, vacuum pressure, tire pressure, whatever. That's all pressure related stuff there. Here's just a couple more random wrenches I had laying around. I have a whole bunch more, but these are just some extra ones I threw in here. These are a couple dog bone wrenches. I got one metric, one standard, and dog bone wrenches because obviously they'll look like a dog bone. And they have 8 sizes each on them, so if you're not sure what size to use, you can carry one of these out with you, and chances are you'll have something you need. This top drawer here is just kind of miscellaneous stuff. Got a couple knives, got a leaf gauges here, some brushes, a file, spark plug remover, and just a battery terminal cleaner. That's very helpful at times. And generic stuff in there. Here I keep more Phillips and flatheads. very large stuff. It's kind of a pry bar there. And a very large screwdriver. You may not think you might have a use for this, but I actually use this a surprising amount for working on small engines and cars and stuff. I keep a couple of vice grips in there. Vice grips are essential all the time, no matter what. Doesn't matter what you do. Vice grips will save your butt one of these days. And then there's other generic stuff in there, just pliers and stuff. This drawer I keep hammers and clamps and pullers. So you can see we got gear pullers and stuff. There's a mini one. We got some clamps. Got another pipe cutter. If you don't do brake lines or anything, pipe cutter's probably not going to do you any good. But, well, there is the big mallets and the tiny hammers and stuff. Make sure you get yourself a decent rubber mallet. Not everything can be pounded on with a steel hammer. And my own little invention here. I used to use ratchets as hammers all the time when I'm under something and I couldn't really reach for one, so I welded a hammerhead to it. And now it's a ratchet and a hammer. So 2 in 1, bonus for me. And on the bottom here I keep kind of bigger stuff. Some really big wrenches. I keep bolt cutters, seal puller, some pipe wrenches. I do a lot with air fittings and stuff, so that helps. A nice big adjustable wrench will probably save your butt someday too. And then for welding, I do keep a big wire brush and a slag hammer in there. I've got some of these for changing tires. Nice big pry bar. It's not very big, but you know, it's pretty solid. I like it. I use it every once in a while. And of course, a 2-foot ratcheting adjustable breaker bar. So that's very, very nice. Saves my butt all the time. And a couple pickle forks. Pickle forks are good for more than just removing ball joints and stuff. Get yourself a couple of those. And I just have taps dies, impact hammer, or impact screwdriver, a set of Dremel attachments, and some easy outs, and harmonic balancer puller, and that's about it. That's what I keep in my boxes. I keep on the side a couple of magnetic trays and some attachments for the air compressor that I use, but that's about it. That's what I keep in my boxes.